Hey everyone, Diavolo here, and in today's video we're going to be going over the entire Black Dragons arc from Tokyo Revengers, which is most likely what the season 2 of the anime is going to be covering, bar a little bit of the Tenjiku arc if it does manage to get all the way there. If you guys are new around here and want to keep up to date with the latest Tokyo Revengers content and just more other anime content in general, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and also be sure to leave a like on the video, as it really helps out with the algorithm and pushes my stuff to a bunch of new amazing people. Also, if you do want to check out the entire Tokyo Revengers story so far, then make sure you go and check out my video that I'll leave a link to down in the description below. This is just separately one of the arcs from the entire story that I've decided to put in its own separate video, as this is what I think the season 2 of the anime will be covering. But anyway, enough of that, let's get into this Black Dragons arc. After he arrives back in the past, Takemichi is with Hakai. As they approach the Shiba household, Yuzuha remarks that they might be in trouble, as their brother is coming back home. All of a sudden, in front of them, numerous members of the Black Dragons gang stand. Yuzuha urges Takemichi to leave with Hina, and as they are about to leave, Taiju suddenly appears behind them, lunging at Takemichi, knocking him to the ground. Taiju continues to beat up Takemichi, then asks who he is. He learns of Takemichi's status as Toman's 1st Division captain, and laughs in disbelief that Hakai brought a member of Toman to their home. While Hakai begs for his brother to show mercy towards Takemichi, Takemichi notes that Hakai's mentality has changed in the presence of his brother. Taiju tells Hakai that their relationship as brothers takes priority over the relationships within Toman, causing Yuzuha to confront Taiju, telling him not to corner Hakai. In response, Taiju punches her, blaming her lack of discipline towards Hakai and warning her that he will deal with her later. To get his brother to stop, Hakai is forced to say that he will quit Toman and join the Black Dragons. When Takemichi awakes from unconsciousness, he is being carried on Hakai's back, with Hina at his side. Takemichi apologizes for forcing Hakai to leave Toman, but Hakai says that he had already decided to leave a while ago. Takemichi suddenly remembers what the future Kazutora told him about Hakai, and how he would kill his older brother for money, then take over the Black Dragons. Lying in bed, Takemichi begins to piece together what will happen. Hakai will kill Taiju and merge the Black Dragons with Toman, resulting in the bad future he saw. However, he does not think that he has to stop Hakai from killing Taiju, as he concludes that the Black Dragons will be a threat regardless of the leader. Takemichi suspects that Shifuyu will tell him not to deal with the conflict alone, but Shifuyu simply tells him to have fun, as Baji did not leave Toman to him in order to bring stress into Takemichi's life. Abruptly, Takemichi confesses that he came from the future. Shifuyu asks Takemichi what he means by saying he is from the future. Overwhelmed by his burden, Takemichi tells Shifuyu everything that has happened to him thus far, including how Shifuyu sacrificed himself for Takemichi. Shifuyu believes Takemichi, telling him that somehow he always knew the truth, like sometimes Takemichi looks different and somehow he knew that Baji was going to die during the bloody Halloween incident. Although Takemichi feels powerless in his failures, Shifuyu tells him that he is incredible. Later, Shifuyu says the thought of getting killed by Kisaki, along with the premeditation of Baji's death, angers him enough to kill Kisaki. However, Takemichi and Shifuyu know they are weak compared to Kisaki's 3rd Division, which has over 100 men, as well as their new 6th Division, which is made up of Valhalla members and Hanma. 2 days later, the leaders of Toman have a meeting. At the Toman meeting, Draken says that Taiju's attack on Takemichi acts as a declaration of war by the Black Dragons. Hakai tells the group that he expects punishment for his brother's actions and requests to leave Toman. As Takemichi frantically thinks about what to do, Draken asks Mikey what his decision is. Mikey replies that he will allow Mitsuya to decide, since Hakai belongs in Mitsuya's division. As Takemichi witnesses what he sees as another failure to change the future, Mitsuya tells Hakai that he did not permit him to leave and asks to talk to Taiju. Hakai tries to dissuade Mitsuya from meeting with Taiju, to which Mitsuya reassures him, telling Hakai that he always tries to handle these issues alone. At Taiju's place, he accused Mitsuya of negatively influencing Hakai and threatens to kill him. Mitsuya tells Taiju that he will not see Hakai again, allowing him to join the Black Dragons on one condition. Taiju must stop his domestic violence against Yuzuha, and Mitsuya believes that Hakai is joining the Black Dragons to protect Yuzuha. In response, Taiju punches Mitsuya, who brushes off the assault. He repeats his conditions to Taiju. and Taiju ends up agreeing, telling Mitsuya that he will not hit Yuzuha again. Takemichi and Shifuyu reflect on what just happened, as their goal of preventing Hakai from leaving Toman failed. However, Takemichi now believes that Hakai will kill Taiju to protect Yuzuha. Hakai approaches them and asks to thank Mitsuya for him. When Takemichi asks why, Hakai says that his home life is complicated and says that he and his siblings grew up without the presence of either parent, which put Taiju in charge. Hakai says that he has sworn to protect his family ever since Mitsuya told him that violence should be used to protect others. From then on, Hakai has been taking beatings for Yuzuha in addition to his own. However, Taiju beat Yuzuha regardless. Hakai explains the agreement Taiju made with Mitsuya will likely have no value to him, and he will continue to hurt Yuzuha. When Takemichi asks what they can do to help, Hakai confesses that he is terrified and powerless when facing his brother. He says that things would be better if Taiju was not around, and that he does not want to give Toman a bad name, so he left the gang to pursue his intentions to kill Taiju. As he leaves them, Hakai says that the short time they spent together was fun. Takemichi tells Shifuyu that Hakai's situation angers him, as it gives him little choice but to kill his brother. Takemichi and Shifuyu pledge to defeat the Black Dragons and create a better future. At a cafe, Takemichi and Shifuyu tell the other captains of their desire to fight the Black Dragons. Draken, Smiley, and Mucho firmly reject this, as it would break Mitsuya's agreement and ruin his reputation. Takemichi decides that he and Shifuyu will deal with the issue on their own. Suddenly, Kisaki offers to help Takemichi and Shifuyu in their goal to stop Hakai's plan to kill Taiju. Kisaki says that they do not have another choice, as they would easily be overpowered by the Black Dragons without the support of the other divisions. Kisaki says that he wants to stop the Black Dragons from gaining more power. Angered by Kisaki's disrespect towards Mikey, Shifuyu holds a shard of broken glass to Kisaki's neck, telling him not to act superior. In response, Hanma holds a knife to Takemichi's neck, reminding Shifuyu that infringing is prohibited. To convince Shifuyu, Kisaki reveals that there is a mole within the Black Dragons. They pay 100,000 yen to the mole, who is feared of getting caught. Kisaki reassures him that no one will turn on him. Just as he is beginning to tell them, Koko bursts into the room, declaring that he smells a rat. Spotting the 100,000 on the table, Koko says that he will tell them what they want to know if he is given that money. Kisaki requests to know when Taiju is alone. Koko says that Taiju is never alone, as he is always guarded with 5 soldiers, save for a single day, Christmas Day. When Takemichi asks why Koko is betraying Taiju, he says that he just likes strong guys. Kisaki tells Takemichi that he did not want to know when Taiju was alone to kill him. Instead, he suspects that this is when Hakai will try to kill Taiju. Kisaki tells Takemichi that he wants to know by tomorrow whether or not they will work together. Shifuyu is opposed to working with Kisaki due to his hatred, but Takemichi hopes to use the opportunity to find information on Kisaki. He and Takemichi find them to let them know, but make sure to emphasize that their collaboration is only to further their goals, as they dislike each other. As Takemichi walks home, a man approaches him, introducing himself as Hina and Naoto's father, Masato Tachibana. Sitting down at a restaurant, Masato tells Takemichi that his wife has told him a lot about him, such as him dating Hina. Takemichi is visibly nervous in front of Hina's father, but Masato reassures him, telling Takemichi that he does not need to be nervous. Up until recently, Naoto hated his father's job, as it kept them apart, but now he wants to become a police officer. Masato attributes this change to Takemichi and thanks him, sincerely bowing. He then asks Takemichi to do a favor for him. Takemichi sits alone in the restaurant, processing the favor Masato asked him. The favor that Masato asked was that he wants Takemichi to break up with Hina due to the status of Takemichi being a delinquent. On Christmas Eve, Takemichi is late as he told Shifuyu that he has something small to take care of quickly. He meets up at Umeshita Park with Hina and tells her that they should break up, saying that he found another girl and does not love her anymore. In response, Hina punches him, telling Takemichi that he is a jerk. As Takemichi lies in the snow, he convinces himself that he's made the right decision, since it could keep Hina from Kisaki's violence. Takemichi arrives at the cafe where Kisaki, Hanma, and Shifuyu are waiting. Hanma ridicules Takemichi's swollen eyes, and Kisaki lays out the plan for the next day.
He speculates that Hakai will attack Taiju in the church, so they will wait for Taiju outside the chapel. Takemichi is given the role of reasoning with Hakai, while the rest of the group will beat down Taiju outside. Although he does not know what Takemichi did before the meeting, Shifuyu tells him to use his anger to motivate himself tomorrow. On Christmas Day, Hakai puts on his Black Dragon's uniform and promises to settle everything. Meanwhile, Taiju leaves the Black Dragons in the temporary command of Koku and Inupai as he prepares to observe his annual Christmas ritual of going to church alone. Shifuyu approaches Takemichi and bows, telling Takemichi how Baji impacted his life. He then presents Baji's ceremonial sash to Takemichi, who promises to honor Baji's legacy by facing obstacles head-on, just like how Baji did. With all four of them wearing their uniforms complete with their sashes, they approach the church. Takemichi reminds himself that they have to fight this battle alone without depending on Toman. Right before he enters the church, Shifuyu reassures Takemichi, telling him that persuading Hakai is the most important aspect of the plan. Entering the church, Takemichi finds Hakai standing in front of the altar. He calls him out, and Hakai turns around asking Takemichi why he is here. Takemichi replies that he is here to stop Hakai's plan to kill Taiju. Just then, Taiju enters the church, reciting a prayer. Upon seeing him, Takemichi wonders what happened to Kisaki and the others, who were supposed to defeat Taiju. Irritated, Taiju demands to know why they are in the church, when, just as Taiju says that, Hakai lunges at him with the knife, screaming. In one of the church's rooms, Hanma restrains Shifuyu, remarking that he put up a good fight, while Kisaki watches. Meanwhile, Taiju easily stops Hakai's attack and begins strangling him, telling Hakai that he only acts tough and admonishing him for failing to kill him, telling him not to yell. Instead, Hakai should have quietly stabbed him from behind. Taiju taunts Hakai, telling him that his back is open to stab. Only using half of his power, Taiju punches Takemichi, causing him to lose consciousness. As Takemichi struggles to come back to, he is terrified by Taiju's power, believing that he may even be killed. Meanwhile, Taiju continues to haunt Hakai, who cannot do anything out of fear. He tells Hakai that he plans to kill Takemichi. As he strangles Takemichi, Taiju asks if he knows why Hakai wants to kill him. Takemichi responds that it is because of Taiju's abuse towards Yuzuha, which causes Taiju to laugh and taunt Hakai. He threatens to reveal Hakai's secret, telling Takemichi that Hakai is not the sort of person he thinks he is. Before Taiju can continue, Yuzuha appears behind him with a knife. Shocked, Takemichi calls her out just before she stabs Taiju in the back. In response, Taiju releases Takemichi and punches Yuzuha, throwing her across the church. Hakai angrily accuses Takemichi of telling Yuzuha his plans, as only Takemichi knows. However, Yuzuha reveals that Kisaki told her everything, intentionally. Takemichi wonders if Kisaki goaded Yuzuha into killing Taiju, and the future rumors about Hakai killing his brother were false. Reflecting on this, Takemichi realizes that Yuzuha killed Taiju in the original timeline. Just then, Taiju takes off his coat, revealing that the stab wound is shallow, attributing Takemichi's shout to helping him to avoid a severe wound. Seeing this, Takemichi realizes that he saved Taiju, wondering if he avoided the future in which Kisaki manipulates Hakai. Taiju abuses Hakai and Yuzuha for trying to kill him, their brother. He tells them that he has done a lot for their sake, which Yuzuha disputes, telling Taiju that he did it all for himself. Taiju punches Yuzuha once again, throwing her against the altar. Aloud, Taiju questions why God puts him through ordeals such as being forced to murder his own sister. Taiju tells Yuzuha that he will kill her. When she charges at him, Taiju punches her and says that he will slowly beat her to death. Putting himself between them, Takemichi tells Taiju to calm down and says that he is the one tearing his family apart, while believing that he cares about them. Takemichi tells Hakai to protect his sister and asks what he is so scared of. Just then, Taiju punches Takemichi and throws another pew at him, saying that his siblings were the ones trying to hurt him in the first place. Takemichi narrowly avoids the pew as well and exclaims that trying to kill each other does not make sense. Standing up, Yuzuha tells him that it is the path all of them chose. Thinking back to how Hakai has been protecting Yuzuha, Takemichi determines that Yuzuha is the key to the events. She killed Taiju in the original timeline after being instigated by Kisaki, but Hakai took responsibility as the killer. Using this knowledge, Kisaki was able to manipulate Hakai, who assumed leadership of the Black Dragons, leading to the corruption of Toman. Takemichi declares he has to beat down Taiju, believing that protecting Yuzuha will stop the corruption of Toman. Hakai tells him that he does not know the full extent of Taiju's violence. Grabbing her knife, Yuzuha tells Takemichi not to get in her way, as she will protect Hakai. Suddenly, Mitsuya appears, grabbing Yuzuha's blade, as he tells her to let go of the knife. Taiju asks what happened to their agreement and taunts Mitsuya for breaking it. Mitsuya says that he will tell Taiju something more important. Even if she misbehaves, he should never hit his little sister. Instead, she should be forgiven with a smile, which is what being an older brother is about. Outside on his CB250T, Mikey asks Draken if he heard Mitsuya's bike. Shivering, Draken tells Mikey that he is hearing things, as no one would be stupid enough to ride a bike in the cold weather. Meanwhile, Mitsuya and Taiju fight, with Takemichi noting that Mitsuya can match Taiju's strength. Suddenly, Mitsuya takes a knee and Taiju taunts him. To the relief of Hakai, Takemichi and Shifuyu, Mitsuya was just tightening a strap on his boot. As they continue to fight, Hakai tells Mitsuya to stop a pointless battle, as he believes that he cannot win against Taiju's strength. Inupai appears behind Mitsuya and swings a pipe at his head, which causes him to collapse. As Hakai screams for Mitsuya, Koko enters and asks the group if his information was worth 100,000. Much to Hakai's horror, Mitsuya is motionless on the ground. Shifuyu and Takemichi prepare to fight Taiju, Koko, and Inupai. Just as Takemichi and Shifuyu charge at Taiju, Mitsuya gets up and tells them to calm down, as he is alright. However, he still sways from the impact of the pipe. Sitting down, Mitsuya acknowledges the direness of the situation. Taiju, Koko, and Inupai are all strong, while he and Shifuyu are already all beat up, leaving Takemichi as the only one able to fight. However, Mitsuya says that if they lose, Yuzuha may even get killed. Takemichi tells Mitsuya not to worry, as Mikey and the others will come to help, so all they have to do is stall for time until they arrive. Mitsuya asks Takemichi if he called Mikey, which confuses him, as Takemichi had thought that Mitsuya would have called Mikey. Mitsuya responds that he came here alone to help Hakai, as an issue unrelated to Toman. He says that the three of them alone will have to protect Yuzuha. Overwhelmed, Takemichi falls to his knees. He believes that there is no possible way that they can win against the Black Dragons, and that they will all be killed. Mitsuya tells Hakai that he is under no obligation to help since he is a Black Dragon member. However, he asks Hakai to help him to protect Yuzuha. As Hakai stammers, Mitsuya says he understands how fearful he is of Taiju. Takemichi screams to motivate himself, and he and Shifuyu prepare to fight. Shifuyu will take on Inupai, and Takemichi will take on Koko. Because Koko is willing to sell information about Taiju, he might be willing to stop the fight if Taiju is significantly weakened. With Shifuyu already worn out from his fight with Hanma and Takemichi's limited fighting skills, they struggle to hold back Inupai and Koko. Takemichi says that he cannot hold off Koko for much longer, and Koko notes that they are stalling for time until Mitsuya and Hakai can defeat Taiju. As Mitsuya rushes towards Taiju, Taiju begins laughing. Turning around, Mitsuya sees that Hakai has not moved. Trembling, Hakai apologizes to Mitsuya for his lack of resolve. Taiju asks what Mitsuya was expecting from a person like Hakai, then punches him. Just then, Takemichi is kneed by Koko, and Shifuyu collapses on the floor. Grabbing his knife and rushing towards Taiju, Hakai tries to gain the resolve to kill Taiju. Still coughing and panting from the impact of Koko's attack, Takemichi puts himself between Hakai and Taiju. Grasping Hakai's blade, Takemichi tells him that he will become an irredeemable person if he follows through with the act, as murdering someone is no way to fight back. Telling Hakai that he will show what it means to fight back, Takemichi prepares to face Taiju, who remarks that Takemichi has not learned his past lesson, even after being attacked by Taiju numerous times. Taiju easily counters Takemichi's attacks with a punch to his face. By the time Taiju asks how many times he has to punch Takemichi until he gives up, Takemichi's face is swollen and bloodied, but he refuses to lose. Seeing Takemichi's wounded face, Shifuyu weeps, telling him to stop and accept defeat. Takemichi grasps the necklace that Hina gave him, asking for courage. He concludes that as long as Taiju and the Black Dragons exist, Hakai will be unable to stand up for himself. Takemichi tells Taiju that he will defeat him and take control of the Black Dragons. In response, Taiju punches him once more, but Takemichi declares that he is not done yet. Shifuyu implores Takemichi to stop fighting Taiju, telling him that he will die if he continues. Takemichi believes that the future may not necessarily change if he continues fighting, but if there's a small chance of that happening, he will continue to risk his life. Just then, he and Taiju simultaneously punch each other in the face, and Takemichi is thrown back by the force, while Taiju remarks that Takemichi's punch did not even hurt. However, to Taiju's shock, he falls onto his knees. As Takemichi unsteadily gets back up, Hakai begs him to stop. With a beaten and bloody face, he tells Hakai that fighting on is not painful. What hurts him more than anything is loneliness. As Inyupe, Koko, Yuzuha, Mitsuya, and Shifuyu react in shock when Takemichi compels Taiju to his knees, Takemichi tells Hakai that he will protect Yuzuha for him. Hakai tells Takemichi that he is wrong as his own face does not have a bruise, while Yuzuha is injured. Although his encounter with Mitsuya made him want to protect his family, he did not have the courage to stand up to Taiju. He confesses that he lied to Takemichi about his circumstances. Instead of him protecting Yuzuha from Taiju, it was Yuzuha who tried to protect him from taking twice the amount of beatings. Hakai apologizes to Takemichi for involving him in the situation through his fear. In response, Takemichi tells Hakai that he sucks for his actions, but he says that he sucks more himself, referring to his past cowardice and the lack of resolve. Standing up, Mitsuya also tells Hakai that he sucks, but says that he was hypocritical for telling Hakai not to hate the situation he was born into when he hated his own. Takemichi says that his true family will not abandon him because of a lie, as this is what Toman should be about. As Shifuyu, Mitsuya, and Takemichi watch Hakai tell Taiju that he will beat him down to protect his family, Shifuyu observes that Hakai has changed. Instead of deciding to kill Taiju, Hakai has decided to beat him down. Shifuyu tells Takemichi that the future will change. Meanwhile, Taiju asks aloud why God continues to test him by compelling him to kill both of his siblings. With a swift punch, Taiju knocks Hakai unconscious. Taiju tells Shifuyu, Mitsuya, and Takemichi that they will have to die as well, as there are 100 Black Dragon members outside blocking them from escape. Looking out the window, Shifuyu confirms this. Takemichi tells Shifuyu that they do not intend to run away, as the future will not change until they defeat Taiju and the Black Dragons. As Yuzuha watches the others fighting the Black Dragons for the sake of Hakai, she realizes that she is not alone. Shifuyu, having fought Inyupe, falls to the ground with an injured leg, while Mitsuya, fighting Koko, takes a knee from his exhaustion. Takemichi staggers from his injuries, and Taiju tells Hakai that he is an idiot, as he will end up losing everything. Hakai tells him to shut up and learn his lesson in hell. Just then, Hakai remarks that he is starting to hear things. However, it is not just a hallucination, but the sound of Mikey's CB250T approaching from the distance. As Taiju, Koko, and Inyupe wonder why Mikey is here, Takemichi exclaims with relief that they can now defeat the Black Dragons with Mikey's aid. Mikey enters the church and wishes everyone a Merry Christmas. Smiling, he asks what they are all doing. Mikey says that his older brother recognized the impulse sound of Mitsuya's bike, and Baji said that only Mitsuya's bike sounded that nice, and the two of them led Mikey to the church. Takemichi and Mitsuya are concerned, as both Shinichiro and Baji are dead. When Taiju approaches Mikey, Mikey asks why he's standing in his way, as he just wants to ride with his friends. Taiju punches Mikey in the face and knocks him unconscious. As the church bells chime, Taiju declares his victory against the so-called invincible Mikey. Angered by this, Mitsuya lunges at Taiju, but just then, Mikey rises behind a shocked Taiju, telling him that prayer time is now over. Taiju tells Mikey that his punch was the best that he had thrown all day. Additionally, Mitsuya and Takemichi are unnerved by Mikey's strange behavior, as he referenced Shinichiro and Baji as if they were still alive. As Takemichi wonders if Mikey will be defeated, Mikey responds that the punch he took from Taiju was just punishing himself. Before he can comprehend what happened, Taiju was lying unconscious at Mikey's feet. To the shock and awe of everyone there, Mikey flies through the air and knocks Taiju unconscious. Mikey says that he decided to go out riding with Baji and Shirachiro every Christmas, and Takemichi is concerned about Mikey's mental state until Mikey takes out Baji's Omamori charm, explaining that when he rides with his brother's bike and Baji's charm, it's like they are still there with him. Hearing this, Takemichi is sure that Mikey will not turn evil. Mikey prepares to leave the church, telling them to go on a ride, but Taiju, held up by Inyupe, tries to prevent them from leaving. He orders Coco to bring in the Black Dragons members from outside, saying that he refuses to lose to anyone. Crawling to the entrance of the church, Taiju finds Draken waiting outside on the steps, with all the Black Dragons members defeated on the ground. Even though they are already worn out from their previous fights, Takemichi, Shifuyu, Mitsuya and Akai prepare to fight the 100 Black Dragons members outside of the church. Just then, Draken enters the church and asks why everyone is so tense, as he informs Mikey that he has defeated all of the Black Dragons waiting outside. With Taiju's will to fight gone and the Black Dragons defeated, Toman has effectively ended the Black Dragons. Rushing out of the church, Yuzuha, Shifuyu and Mitsuya marvel at Draken's strength. Takemichi cries in relief when he notes that everyone has survived, telling Shifuyu that his mission is complete. As he faints from exhaustion, everyone agrees that the role Takemichi played in the night's events was of the utmost importance. Before leaving, Hakai and Yuzuha speak to their brother. Hakai asks a silent Taiju how his first ever loss felt. He tells Taiju that he is strong and will recover shortly, but he and Yuzuha will never give in to Taiju's abuse again. After this, Takemichi asks what they are doing at Hina's home, and Mikey doesn't provide a helpful response. As Hina stands before him, Takemichi feels awkward and does not know what to say, as the way he dumped her was completely one-sided. Seeing Takemichi's swollen and bloody face, Hina simply asks if he got into another fight. Takemichi begins to tear up and bursts into tears, apologizing to Hina. Although he understands where her father is coming from, he tells her that he cannot let her get hurt after he swore to save her, which confuses Hina. Even if she gets run over by a truck and becomes paralyzed, he says he will save her, no matter how many tries it takes. Takemichi tearfully asks if they can get back together. Hina tells Takemichi to take her to the shrine on New Year's and tells him that they have made up. Takemichi, touched by the moment, begins to cry. After they leave Hina's, Mikey tells Takemichi that sometimes he does not know what is going on. His brother should be alive, but he is not, and he does not understand what this means. During this time, Mikey says that he becomes disorientated and unable to tell the difference between right and wrong. Takemichi realizes that Mikey is self-aware of the darkness inside him and the potential of that darkness to take hold of him. Mikey tells Takemichi that his brother sparkled brighter than anything when he led his gang. The members were sure they would not lose as they could rely on Shinichiro. Takemichi says that Mikey is just like his brother, but Mikey says that he is just weak, while Takemichi is strong. Mikey asks Takemichi to scold him like his brother would if he loses control of himself. Takemichi promises that he will. Meanwhile, as they look over the city, Hanma remarks that he never expected Takemichi to pull off what happened on Christmas night. However, Kisaki says it will not end here. Draken announces the beginning of Toman's first meeting of the year. He and Mikey inform Toman of the conflict with Taiju and the Black Dragons through the testimony of 3 people. Called to the front, Hakai takes responsibility for the conflict, as it all started with a lie he told. The second person called up is Inyupe, who was with Koko Nui. Because the 10th generation Black Dragons lost to Toman and Taiju retired, they are now the leaders of the 11th generation. After talking with Mikey, they have decided to join under Toman. Mikey assigns them to the 1st Division under Takemichi's command, much to everyone's shock. When Takemichi asks what the reasoning behind their decision was, Mikey says that both Inyupe and Koko wanted to be under his command. The last person Mikey calls up is Kisaki, regarding his involvement in the Christmas conflict. Mikey tells Kisaki that he is fired. A shocked Kisaki asks Mikey if he is joking, but Mikey says he is not. Approaching the stage, Hanma says that if Mikey is fired, then he will leave as well. Mikey says that he does not care as Toman has gotten too big. In response, Kisaki reminds Mikey that expanding Toman is his goal, to which Mikey asks if Kisaki's instigation of the Christmas conflict was a way to expand Toman. Shifuyu reiterates that he did not think Kisaki would be fired, as he and Mitsuya did not have concrete evidence of Kisaki's betrayal. A panicked Kisaki runs towards Mikey, telling him that he has grown weak, as Taiju posed a threat to Toman, so he acted for Mikey's sake. Draken appears in front of Kisaki, asking who allowed him to come near Mikey. Hanma swings at Draken, telling him to let Kisaki talk. Watching this, Takemichi wonders if Kisaki is desperate, as he can no longer achieve his goal of becoming Mikey's right-hand man. Mikey upholds his decision, telling Kisaki that his arbitrary actions will ruin his dream. Later on, they reveal a CB250 bike to Takemichi, which Mikey remarks is the same bike as his. He says his brother found 2 engines for the bike in the Philippines, where they were lying abandoned. Mikey says that someday he wants to go to the place where his brother found the engines, and Takemichi agrees. After his time leap, Takemichi finds himself at a shrine, meaning that he was able to change the future. As he wonders if Hina has been saved, a woman approaches him, remarking that it has been an extremely long time since they last saw each other. Takemichi discerns that he is at a funeral, but does not know whose. From the conversation between 2 of the deceased sisters, a shocked Takemichi realizes the funeral is for Mitsuya. Entering the temple, he is horrified to find a picture of Mitsuya surrounded by flowers. When he checks his phone, he finds that Mitsuya's death is suspected to be a murder. Additionally, Hina was killed, dying in exactly the same way as before. Entering his apartment, he finds it as familiar as ever. As he wonders how the events transpired, Takemichi notices the final photo he took with Mikey and the others. Just then, Naoto enters the apartment, telling Takemichi that he has been looking for him as his memory was overwritten. Naoto says that this is the worst future that has occurred thus far. Shifuyu was shot to death, Hakai was burned to death, Mitsuya was strangled to death, and Draken was stabbed to death. Additionally, other chief members of Toman were murdered as well, including Kazutora, Parchin, and even Kisaki. Naoto reveals that Mikey is the one who perpetrated all of the murders. A shocked Takemichi insists that Mikey would never kill anyone, and Naoto says that he wants to know the truth as well. Naoto asks if Takemichi would know anything about this, as he could have gained information from the past. Naoto asks where Takemichi found the photo, and Takemichi responds that he found it on top of the table. They find a letter from the Philippines on the table sent from Mikey. After reading the letter and deducing where Mikey is, Takemichi and Naoto arrive at Manila in the Philippines. Mikey's letter asks them to meet at the place he told Takemichi about, where his brother found the 2 bike engines. Eventually, Takemichi finds a pile of old bike parts, which was the location Mikey told him about. Behind him, Mikey calls his name. Turning around, Takemichi sees that Mikey has the same look in his eyes as he did 12 years ago. Mikey says that Toman has changed. He asks Takemichi why he left Toman, as he wanted Takemichi to stay with him, reminding Takemichi of his request to be scolded, as his brother would have if he stepped out of line. Mikey recalls him trying to stop Takemichi from leaving Toman, but both Draken and Mitsuya believe that Takemichi should go. Throwing a gun at Takemichi's feet, Mikey requests a tearful Takemichi to kill him. A confused Takemichi tells him to stop, as he only wanted to see Mikey again. Mikey tells Takemichi that it was difficult to achieve his goals, but when he killed someone for the first time, he felt nothing. Instead, he found killing as an easy solution to most of the world's problems. Shaking him, Takemichi tells Mikey that he can tell that he has not changed from 12 years ago. Mikey tells him to stop and slams Takemichi onto the ground, pressing a gun to his cheek. As he cries, he tells Takemichi that they cannot bring back the past, and a shot rings out. Naoto shoots Mikey in the head. He then cautions Takemichi to stay away from Mikey just in case. Naoto then notices the safety on Mikey's gun was on, meaning that he never intended to kill Takemichi in the first place. Mikey thanks Naoto for shooting him, as he says that Takemichi probably could not have. Before he dies, he remarks that Takemichi's hand is warm. Crying, Takemichi remembers the many moments they shared together, from when they first met to when Mikey told him that he was strong. Holding Mikey's body in his arms, a determined look flashes across Takemichi's face.
So I hope you all enjoyed the Black Dragons arc. By far, it's probably one of my favorite arcs, if not my favorite arc. It's definitely up there in my like top 2 or 3. It's fighting with Tenjiku for being that #1 arc for me, to be honest, as I just love the dynamic that we have with Takemichi kind of being separated from the entire group and having to work with his enemy somewhat in this and not knowing whether or not he's actually going to be working with him, and then finding out that he's actually betrayed him and just wanted to see Takemichi squirm the entire time. And I just love how Takemichi, you know, everyone calls him weak and just a punchy bag. And all reality he is, but even at some point in that fight, he manages to drop Taiju down onto one knee, which is insanely impressive from someone Takemichi's size. So I absolutely love this arc, and I hope you guys did as well. If you guys do want to catch up on all of the Tokyo Revengers stories so far, then be sure to go down to the comment section below, like I said at the start of the video, then click on that link and you can catch up over on that video. If not, then keep an eye out for the Tenjiku and Bonten arcs, which I will be uploading probably over the next few weeks. But anyway, if you have enjoyed the video and haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and also be sure to leave a like as well, as it really helps out with the algorithm and pushes my stuff to a bunch of new amazing people. But anyway, enough of that. For now, it's been your professional degenerate, Diavolo, and I'll see you all in a bit. Bye.